Hello and welcome to Sim.B.C, where right now it's 1854 and you all out there might have been noticing a new trend I've been trying to set off here by mistake without me actually knowing about it, and I actually started to reflect upon it today. And that is that I've been moving the recording schedule further and further and further along, right? Further and further down the line on the day. So it's always around like 7 or so right now. And I did not know for the love of me why that was, but now I kind of realized that might be because, well, summer's about to be here. The spring has actually started, even in Sweden, which means that, well, it's going to be light for, a longer amount of time. The sun is going to be out for a bit longer, which means that when I, naturally see that, oh, the sun is down, then I believe that it's 4 o'clock because I'm a Swede. Yeah, that's just how we operate here in the northern hemisphere. I think that, now it's time to, record the video. And I go in and I realize that, whoa, it's already like 7 or 8 o'clock. And I'm like, dude, what's happening? And today is not a, deviation from that structure. I've actually been out 2 hours already, been walking around, even though my knees probably couldn't take it because I'm having a bit of a feeling in my knees after I worked out too hard. I know, I should have just been home and rested, but did I do that? Did I take my own advice for when I, usually get hurt, or when somebody else get hurt? I'm just like, you should rest, but when it happens to you, you don't tend to listen to your own advice, now do you? Just a moment. Oh, I dislike that I always tend to forget that thing, but it makes all the difference in the world, now doesn't it? I mean, don't you want to see the shadow of my hands on myself like this, yeah? Isn't that just the best thing ever? But that's not why you're here. No, you're not here to listen to me talking about when I'm recording, why I'm recording, how I'm recording, that I'm not using the extra feed today either. What? Sorry, no, the hate, yeah. Keep it on the distance. Why? Well, because, I realized as of yesterday that, wow, it's so much easier not to have that thing on there because that sound on that second camera doesn't automatically sync up with this microphone all of the time, which means that I have to sit and, mix and match in post-production, which is a bit tedious, some of the things that I mentioned as of yesterday. So we'll see how we'll be moving on when we're going forward into the future. Might be that we're introducing it again, might that we not, that we actually skipped altogether. We'll see, a bit of an intermission phase. But as I said, that's not why you're here, though. You're not here to listen to me going through all of these things. No. You're here because, well, probably, hopefully, maybe because of the title, maybe because you're watching every single episode each and every day. And I mean, who can blame you? It's quality content over here and nothing less. Am I right, people? So what kind of innovative new topic are we going to discuss today? This regarding that you probably read the title and know already. Well, we're going to continue with the Facebook hearing. Kind of, in a way. I mean, I'm going to link in the description to this one as well, because I do believe that we can, raise the awareness of what they actually did and the step that Mark Zuckerberg actually took stepping into that hearing and actually, voluntarily go out there and show to the world that I am a CEO, but I can still do it, which I think is humongously good, right? Props to that guy. So I would like to leave it in the description below yet again for another video, so you can go and check that out. And we're going to just spin on the entire thing that we've been talking about for the last couple of days. And now we're in the area. We're in the regulatory environment. Yeah, and regulatory being the key word, because today we're going to talk regulations. Isn't that just the best thing ever? And we were kind of talking about this yesterday when we were talking about, or rather when we're discussing about going back and forth on the idea of what is actually, information online. Whose is the information online? If I post it, is it my information? If you post it, is it your information? If I take some information that you posted and I post it myself, is it my information? Do I share my information with you? And all of that good stuff. Now, the conclusion that we came to, or that I arrived to when I gave my opinion on the matter, was that, well, technically there should be some form of enforcement going on if we do break any form of rules. And in order for there to be some regulation to begin with, we need to establish rules, right? So that it's not just only untasteful behavior when I do steal my friend's profile picture to upload it to some strange forum that he doesn't know about, right? There should be some repercussion on that behavior. But at the moment, at least as far as I know, that's just, untasteful behavior. And again, I'm not really stealing anything physical. I'm just borrowing, you can say, something that he shared with me. So the problem that we raised as of yesterday was the entire idea of that, well, imagine, yeah? We're on the internet and we're a bit of a global people here on the internet, aren't we? I assume that people that are going to watch this video can be from all manners of different places. They can be from France, they can be from Sweden, they can be from all the way over the Atlantic Ocean, from El Salvador. I mean, there's a pretty high possibility that that might be the case. Am I right, people? So there might be a lot of different people in the world who's just viewing this specific video, this really isolated part of the internet, my little corner of this global world. And yet again, there can be many different people from many different places in the world viewing this content that I've created here in Sweden. Which means that if we were to introduce a Swedish regulation in this nation about how we deal with information, wow, that all rhymes. I might become a rapper. Yeah, no, probably not. Wow, probably cut that. That means that this information, if we introduce a regulation, that, well, how do we actually enforce that if it goes beyond the national borders of Sweden? Yeah, one can wonder, because imagine that this guy from El Salvador, let's just say that it is from someone from there that goes in and watches my YouTube video, yeah? And they choose to download that YouTube video and upload it in a Spanish forum in Russia. Let's just say that that's a thing. It probably is, but let's just say. Now, what is the Swedish government going to do? Are they going to go into El Salvador, follow this trail and find out that, wow, they sent it to a Spanish forum in Russia, go all the way to Russia, see that the Spanish forum is actually hosted in Spain, because it's Spanish, they go all the way there, but then they realize that, no, we actually misinterpreted the Spanish of it all. It's actually not in Spain itself, it's actually in Brazil, which makes a bit more sense, and since it was, shared in El Salvador to begin with. So they go all the way to Brazil and then they check out there just to find out that they've outsourced their service to Hawaii. That means that we have to go to the US, go all the way to Hawaii, and then, it just goes around in circles. And we have not even tackled the biggest problem yet. Not only that would take, if it was possible, a lot of different governmental resources that we probably, do need at other places, to be honest, right? Not just in Sweden, but everywhere in the world, we probably need our government's resources a bit better distributed among the different kinds of things that we want them to actually do. Not just, go on wild goose chases around the internet trying to distribute and find information that has been shared. Not only to take into consideration that this information might have not only been shared or downloaded by this person in El Salvador that uploaded it to the Russian, Spanish, whatever forum. I don't remember. It's convoluted, right? But people can actually, along the way of this information being spread, well, downloaded it and re-uploaded it to other forums. So as I said, it's kind of a wild goose chase. Once you put it out on the internet, it kind of is there. But yet again, we haven't actually tackled the biggest part of the problem yet. And what problem is that? Well, that is, of course, that if we are to implement such a regulation in Sweden, how can we enforce it in different countries? And this is kind of the thing that we were touching upon yesterday as well. I mean, just imagine, right, that something happens outside of Sweden. Now, if the Swedish government goes to another country and say that, well, this isn't how you're supposed to be doing it, that's kind of an international crisis now, isn't it? And that's something that will be happen on a regular basis if this were to be implemented, actually all the time. Just imagine that all the different nations in the world implement some form of internet regulation, not just censorship in their own country, but that they say that, well, all information from this country should be treated in this way. And then someone from another country is downloading it, and that country's government has a different view on how information should be shared, how it should be used, and how it should be treated as information, who owns it and whatever and whatnot. That means that we have two different countries who have two different opinions that can access each other's information and download each other's information, but have a different view on how to use this information and what is legal and what is not. You can see the problem already, and this is just two countries. Imagine applying this to the 200 plus countries that we have in the world? Maybe it's 150 plus, maybe just 100. Maybe I'm all out of options, right? But there's a lot of different countries out there. I mean, just imagine trying to put this into action. It will be absolute madness to try and actually track all of the information shared online, which means that any form of regulation that we can make would be impossible to uphold, which means that we're in the same problem that we are right now, which means that there will be no repercussions of me actually mistreating information online, which is the thing that we're trying to access. Which brings us back to Mark Zuckerberg. I know, full circle after a couple of, 3 days or something like that. We're coming back to Mark Zuckerberg, who do believe, according to my interpretation of his hearing, that they're actually trying to follow up in the best way that they can, to the best of their abilities. They're trying to follow up on this untasteful behavior and actually apply repercussions so that this won't happen in the future, which I admire and I think is great. I mean, it sounds wonderful now, doesn't it? That only means, though, that all other companies need to do this. Because we've already established, right, that a nation cannot do this. One single government in each nation can't just go into another nation saying, this is how you're supposed to do it. Do you know why? Because that will lead to war, which isn't optimal at all. So we kind of need to leave this up to different companies. That's my view, right? Or it's one view, I'd say. I'm not 100% behind this. Why? Well, because as we've seen, or as I've seen since I've been studying sustainable development and I've been studying, business ethics, I've seen that not all companies tend to agree on the same kind of standards. So what is considered to be right, what is considered to be untasteful, all of these different things need to be taken into consideration again. And that means that if we leave it up to the companies of the world to establish different standards that they should uphold, well, then we also need to keep into account that just as the different countries can come up with different interpretations of how information should be treated, so can different companies. Now, sure, there is the possibility that all companies will come together and gain an understanding or create a standard that will greatly benefit them and hurt the consumer. That's one way of seeing it. The more likely possibility is that a lot of companies will not agree. Why? Well, because of different cultural factors, because of different personal factors, because of different missions and visions of the company. Some might say we want to restrict the information to support, or rather to protect our consumer, whilst other missions and visions of their company can be to have as free of an information flow as possible, which means that we're standing yet again at a problematic place, since governments can't go in and regulate this environment, which is in a high maintenance of need of regulation, I'd say. And different companies cannot do it. Well, then the next person it comes to is the consumer, which needs to in some way, shape or fashion make our voice heard as a internet people. Yet again, coming back to this idea that I'd say, yet again, context, right? I'm not the man of tradition. I can argue that, right? I don't care that much about different nationalities, right? And that's not in a racist way. That's just in the way of us. Well, what does it really mean to be a Swede? What does it really mean to be Danish? What does it really mean to be from China? When we have the internet, we can view all of the different cultures in the world. We can take to us all the different cultures of the world if we want to. Sure, you can't do that solely through the internet, but you can have a greater understanding in comparison to how we have done it in history. So we are more of a global people today than we've ever been, which means that, well, maybe, and big maybe here, this is going to be a huge assumption, right? We as a global people don't have the same kind of cultural problems that the companies and governments have. Now, one can argue that if that is true, then why would the different governments of the world and why would the different companies of the world have it? And I can see that criticism, which technically shuts down my entire plan here, and well, that's that. But the problem still stands, that how do we actually face different regulations? I mean, sure, we can leave it up to corporations, but that also means even if they in some miraculous way actually manage to say that okay, we should all together work together to establish some form of standard, that also probably means that there will going to be, well, we're going to sacrifice the user friendliness and the attractiveness and the usefulness of an app, for instance, for regulations and well, just better informed choices all the way. Let's just say, for instance, that I would like to post a picture on Instagram. Now, instead of just going there and post it with preemptive settings, I maybe need to put in who is able to access this, who is able to download this, who is not able to download this, who am I going, all of these different technicalities that takes out the usefulness of the app in and within itself, which also takes out lots of the appeal, which probably means that if big corporations does this, then smaller corporations will not, which will make their app be more user-friendly, which will mean that the consumer will move towards that app, and we're back to where we started when that app grows bigger and they don't take into the consideration the different standards that the previous corporations has done. We're in the same boat as we started in. So it's kind of a problem. I'd say our best bet is at the consumer. And I'm not just saying that in a way that stop stealing each other's information, stop sharing information in a way that's untasteful, because yet again, as we're already established, even though I would like to believe, right, that we're kind of a global people, that people have different interpretations of what is actually tasteful, what is untasteful, what is right, what is wrong. So we maybe cannot do that, but perhaps we can work as a people, yeah? Towards a better place for all of us, so that all of us can work together for some form of consensus that will move us in towards a direction where this is less of an issue. Now, true, I'm studying economics, and I do believe with the even though I don't want to, I do believe that if there is an opportunity, the market will fill that opportunity in some way or another. The free market hypothesis of Adam Smith, probably, that if the government doesn't intervene, there will be, intervention done by behalf of different consumers, by the consumers. Which means that if all of us start operating in a way that isn't untasteful, then someone is going to capitalize on that and make something untasteful that everybody secretly wants. So this is kind of a big issue, but it's still an interesting point to raise and still interesting to kind of discuss it in a way, even though we don't come to any form of real conclusion more than that, well, we're an internet people and we should take this matter into our own hands and enforce this by ourselves, which isn't the easiest thing, right? Yet again, when you don't have that much of a voice on the internet. But it's still an interesting discussion to be had, at least I think so. But that's everything for me today, mates. I'm gonna leave you with this though, since we'll be talking about war and problems and different regulation and regulatory issues. That an eye for an eye will just make the eye for an eye will just make that an eye for an eye will just make the world blind. Yeah, have a nice one, mates.